Let's talk about what happens to the internet when it fills with AI agents and how prevalent are these robots already. We're joined today by Tytunovich, the CEO and founder of Cheq, who is working on the front lines to solve the secret problem with agents. And he's here in a conversation presented by Cheq. Guy, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Great to see you, Alex. Thanks so much for having me.
It's great to have you. I want to just go to the prevalence question first because we talk about AI agents all the time here. And I don't really have a sense as to how prevalent these agents actually are. You're looking at traffic from agents all the time. So can you give us a sense as to whether people have actually deployed these already or whether this is more marketing than real life?
Of course. So I started Cheq about 8 years ago, and we actually originally called it Cheq.ai. It's also our domain because we wanted to check your artificial intelligence. We had no idea when AI agents would come, especially 8 years ago, or that ChatGPT and OpenAI would be so prevalent, but we were hopeful. And what we started with is looking at bots. Bots, the old school bots, are also AI. They're not Gen AI. They weren't working like AI agents are today. But essentially, those bots back then and still today are between 30 to 50% of the internet population. What's different now is that in the past, those AI tools or bots or automation tools were almost always malicious. It was very easy to understand that if a bot comes in or if a bunch of bots come into your website, it's not because they have a bot high school reunion. They're not coming there to high five each other. They're there to do something nefarious in most cases. But we believe that we are now in the early stages of the most significant digital disruption since the dot-com boom. We might be a bit biased, but we certainly believe so. AI agents and algorithms increasingly replace what was once possible through genuine human interaction. And what this means is that now bots or AI agents are not just going to be clearly nefarious in most cases. I think Gardner, who I like to quote, say that that by 2028 or thereabout, about 30%, I might be misquoting, but it's roughly there. About 30% of
Directionally
the money,
accurate, yeah.
directionally accurate, exactly, is going to be driven by AI agents. Now, bots or AI agents are going to be able to do positive things. They're going to be able to book an appointment with your barber on your behalf, cancel an order on Amazon, buy shoes. Now, the prevalence of those kind of tools, of the positive bots, is still very small. But we believe that once OpenAI releases ChatGPT Operator, for instance, from the $200 a month package to the regular paid package, and once Opera, who just announced they're launching an AI agent of themselves within the browser, once that happens, once Gemini and Google goes there, once Anthropic goes there, we do believe it will be incredibly massive. And again, double-digit percentages of the positive internet economy.
So 50% of the internet's traffic today, if I heard you right, is already bot, but a lot of that is bad
Correct.
stuff. And you were expecting we're going to see a much larger increase in terms of good bots hitting the internet, doing things like completing tasks for you like Operator does today.
Exactly.
And today, AI agents, tiny percentage. Are they even a single-digit percentage of web traffic yet? Or what's your read on that?
Not even remotely close. It's way less than 1%.
Wow, okay.
It does vary. And we do see, for instance, we've got one customer who's a B2B marketplace. Think eBay for machines and printers and so on and so forth. They have about 10% of their traffic, of their positive traffic coming from AI agents, but they are a massive outlier. We're still seeing with massive customers that receive billions of visits every month, we're seeing few hundreds of visits from AI agents. We believe it will become way more prevalent, and we believe it's a question of when and not if, and that when is, we believe, within a few months.
Right. Yeah, I signed up for the $200 a month plan from OpenAI to be able to try out Operator. And I unsubscribed. I think it's useful, but I definitely am going to wait. It's like $20 a month of value for me, not $200. So I will wait until it comes out. And I expect a lot of people will be using this as it becomes more available, like you're saying. And then it's going to create a very interesting situation for companies selling
I agree.
online, companies who are doing anything online, because I guess they've been filtering out all bot traffic, thinking that it's, maybe, I don't know, I'm going to throw stuff out there, DDoS or some sort of ad fraud. They don't want bot traffic. But now they're going to want it because it's going to be agents working on behalf of their customers. And well, that's going to be an interesting thing for them to solve because you're not going to be able to figure out who's who, or maybe you will.
Exactly.
So, kind of talk us through a little bit about how companies and how you're thinking about this. I mean, do you have to like have your own terms, like a machine customer for an AI coming in? Tell me a little bit about how that works.
First of all, we believe at Check that it is a situation that's going to offer a lot of problems and with it, a lot of opportunities, obviously. We believe that commerce is going to grow because of it, that human productivity is going to grow because of it, but we also believe that problems are going to erupt, both because of how, bot management platforms and identity and access management platforms have been operating thus far, which is completely irrelevant for the world of agentic AI. And we believe that the solution for it is to be able to understand not just whether a user is a human being or not, but pair it with, and that a continuous cat and mouse game, but also pair it with the ability to understand the identity of the user, whether this AI agent is indeed operating on behalf of who they claim they operate for. Is this the AI agent of Alex, or is this my AI agent trying to mask itself as Alex logging into Alex's bank account? And even more so, the subject matter expertise. You need to understand the world of the CMO, of the chief digital officer, of the customer journey in order to be able to play in the world of agentic AI and to help companies really figure out what they need to do, both from the customer journey side of things and the digital experience side of things, as well as from the security side of things. You want both to not just not block or enable positive AI agents, good AI agents. You want to even complement that with a digital experience that fits them. It's not anymore the digital experience world of, this button needs to be green and needs to be yay big and it needs to be here and not here in order for the human being to be able to click it and to notice it. Now, the AI agent is a completely different being, and it's still a being, not a human being, but a being, and it has its behavior. And there's still a point in optimizing your website or your app in order to cater for that user because it's a good user. Now this world is going to change. And at the same time, the security side of things or the anti-fraud side of things is also going to change because the opportunity that AI agents create for cyber criminals is immense. And currently, very few companies are able to not just decipher whether a user is a human being or not, whether it's an AI agent and so on. Almost no company knows how to decipher the intent and the identity. Again, is it really Alex's AI agent or is it the criminal's AI agent trying to mask itself as Alex?
Right. And very quickly, I mean, people have been talking about how AIs are going to maybe find their own more efficient way of communicating and maybe create new languages to communicate information to each other. And we haven't not yet seen that from generative AI, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it. But what you're saying here is kind of interesting because if you are a human user, you're right. You need some signals. You need human language, basically, to be able to give you, a way to guide through a normal way to guide through a website. But if you're a bot, you can maybe do that very differently.
Exactly.
It's almost like you're creating in some way like a custom API for every visitor because you're machine to machine and you're going to have to find new ways of communicating to each other. So how's that going to play out?
It's exactly what it is. And the answer is the real answer, the honest answer is nobody knows. There are a lot of guesses out there, a lot of guesstimates even, but no one really knows. I've been doing artificial intelligence for about 20 years now, and like when I remember when Sora by OpenAI came out, I could not have envisioned a day prior to that that AI is already there. So the understanding where the world of AI is going and the pace in which it's going is incredibly difficult to understand. That being said, It is exactly what you outlined. It could be a completely new language. It could be a custom API for every specific visitor. We don't know yet how many AI agents or companies that are proprietors of AI agents are going to be there in 6 months, a year, 10 years. It's a crazy world, and what you need is the adaptive and dynamic ability to always be a step ahead, both a step ahead of the AI agents and how they operate, as well as the cyber criminals that might use them. Now, I mean, I love Adobe's digital experience cloud. I love Acquia. I love Salesforce's digital experience cloud. And there are quite a lot of companies operating in this massive TAM of a market. They now need to be like, they've invested bajillions of dollars in building the perfect suite to cater for digital experience for human being users. Now, what do you do in a world where it's not just human beings anymore? And what do you do there? So I think a lot of the answers, other than detecting the user and its humanity and its verified or valid identity, it's also trying to figure out that very question. There are billions of dollars invested in building digital experiences, dozens of billions of dollars every single year. Now, this is the question. How do you change it? How do you make it enabled for non-human users as well?
I want to talk about that. And first, let's just talk about detection. We'll go through the path: detection, experience, and cybersecurity. So let's talk about detection first. I was just doing a lot of research for a trip I have coming up where I needed to rent a car in Milwaukee and drop it off in St. Louis. And it was a pretty exhaustive search because I was like thinking, all right, am I going to fly into a different airport? Am I going to fly into these airports? What's the cheapest car? And I'm going back and forth. I'm on Kayak looking at flights. I'm Hotwire looking at cars. Then I'm back at Kayak changing flights. I'm back at Hotwire changing cars. Then I'm looking at cars on Kayak. I think this is like a pretty normal experience when it comes to travel booking. I would have loved a bot to go do that for me. And because my activity is multi-site, it's probably hard for those websites, I would imagine, to figure out whether I'm the human me or the, let's say, OpenAI operator version of me going out and doing these searches. So how would a company even begin to try to detect the bot behavior in this situation?
100%. It's incredibly difficult. Again, you'd need to hire a company like Cheq, which me saying this is very self-serving, but that being said, it is the truth. There's a very high likelihood, in my opinion, that the proprietors behind the main AI agents like OpenAI, like Google, would find a way to declare an AI agent is one operating on their behalf. That being said, that is the very definition of a loophole. Such a thing kind of exists with Google's robots.txt. Google many years ago declared its bot that is aiming at indexing sites so they can appear in Google search, and it has a signature, and it's called robots.txt. And that signature has enabled cyber criminals, proprietors of other bots, to mimic that bot and gain access to places that would have otherwise blocked them. I believe that this is the same place the AI agents declaring themselves is going to go to. And then you really need a company that can very clearly decipher if a user is an AI agent, a regular bot, a human being with malicious intentions, or one with positive intentions, same as the AI agent, whether it's really operating on the user's behalf and so on and so forth. And here you need to marry a vet expertise with identity expertise, and finally with the understanding of what's called the digital experience and the customer journey, because you need to enable granularity. If you're Kayak, for instance, that you had mentioned, it's not necessarily the same behavior for every single AI agent that you want to enable. It's not depending on the risk, depending on the identity, depending on the digital experience considerations, depending on the stage of the acquisition. if you're just about to input your credit card number, there's a higher risk associated with that. And could be that at that point you'd want to force the AI agent, if it's such that it's detected as such, to invoke human intervention and the proprietor of the bot to say, okay, this is indeed me operating on my behalf. Here's a biometric proof for it. And yes, I approve this purchase, and so on. So all that identity, the subject matter expertise in anything digital experience in customer journey, um, the capabilities in human non-human behavior, and finally the enablement of granularity and multi-actions in order to allow the sites and apps to decide what they do in every single instance.
I guess I'm curious whether there's going to be situations where sites say some bots are allowed into the club and some bots got to stay out. I mean, is it going to be a situation where, I'm using Operator and Kayak will be like, all right, come on in and you go ahead and, get the information you need and distribute it back to a human customer. But if I'm using some, potentially off-brand agent, they might be like, we don't necessarily trust you, because that's going to really create a whole new dynamic, I think, on the internet in terms of what what services are allowed to work and which ones don't.
Without a doubt. And that's where it becomes tricky slash interesting. Um, I have no doubt that there are going to be hundreds of different AI agents leading the pack. Then there's going to be ones that revolve around open sources, maybe open sources by OpenAI and the like. And you need to be very selective and vigilant in terms of what you enable, what you allow in, what you block, and so on. And it's going to be very complex. You're also going to have, you mentioned machine customers earlier. So a lot of machine customers are AI agents and some are not. For instance, a printer that knows when the ink is going to run out, and at the right time, it purchases new toners from Amazon or whatever. And in those cases, it's not really, it's artificial intelligence to a certain extent, but it's not really an AI agent. It's a machine customer because the machine is making the purchase. Now, do you want, as Amazon or as HP or whatever, do you want to allow every such machine customer to buy, to acquire, to purchase? Not necessarily. It also goes to different regulations. Let's say you're a financial institute, a bank. Can you allow AI agents to transfer money from one user's account to another? And anti-money laundering issues and so on. There's so much to it. But yeah, a new and very selective world of digital experience and security.
Yeah, this is so crazy because I'm thinking about it, and there's just going to be a whole new genre of people buying things and then asking for refunds, blaming their AI agents.
Exactly. Exactly. And again, the
That's going to be
opportunity and the
fun for
problem.
companies to deal with. Yeah.
Especially the PCIs. Yeah, the credit card companies. Yeah, it's going to be massive and crazy. I think also for philosophers, by the way. I mean, when you think about it, it's a new being that's not a human being, and it's got your. I think agency would be the best word kind of to describe it, and it certainly has your credit card and login details. And would privacy regulations apply for your agent like it does for you as a human being, for instance? And a ton of headaches to try and ready your site for.
Guy, can you answer that question? I mean, should privacy regulations apply to bots?
First of all, the answer is the world doesn't know yet, but my opinion is one that I'm certain about. And in my opinion, it needs to be exactly the same. It's a tool operating on your behalf. It's not a different. It's got your permissions. It's an automation tool. So yeah, I think, or my opinion is, and I think it's also going to be the case of what's going to happen is the same privacy rules and regulations that apply to you as a human being users, sorry, would apply to your AI agent as well.
Yeah, and I guess they'll have to pick whether to opt in or opt out to allow the cookies to track them, and that's going to be a whole
Exactly.
new era of
E-
training them.
Exactly. And by the way, I'll give you two stories about it from the traditional bot world. First of all, most bots operate on behalf of criminals. They have a nefarious purpose. And as such, they do not click on the consent pop-up. Is it legit then to try and fingerprint them in order to understand if they are indeed nefarious? Is it, I mean, they didn't consent. So the courts currently seem,
That's
and
crazy.
regulations like GDPR and CCPA seem to think that, well, they're not human beings. They don't need to consent. And the second story is and I don't remember the details exactly, but there was a precedent in the US where the judge decided that the bot is not entitled to the same protections from for free speech based on the American Constitution that a human being is, simply because it's not a human being, and as such, you can unmask it and prove who is the proprietor of the bot, say if they besmirched a competitor or a person and so on and so forth. So they actually decided that the bot is not entitled to the same constitutional rights as the human being behind it, and the same privacy protection as the human being behind it. So very interesting question. Again, I think with AI agents, it's going to be a bit different.
Yeah, that is fascinating. As we're talking, I'm just thinking again about the cybersecurity. We said we'd talk about the cybersecurity side of things. Um, could you see these new agents opening up new cybersecurity challenges for companies?
Of course. So, for instance, there's a $35 billion TAM market behind anything to do with identity. It's called IAM or SIAM, so Customer Identity Access Management. And you've got companies there that are behemoths that deal with identity, but don't know how to cope with machine customers and AI agents because they can't decipher if a user is indeed an AI agent or not. So where does this world go to? And it presents a huge opportunity for cyber criminals again around fake identities. It also, imagine you were a bank robber. Imagine that was your career choice, but a real bank robber in the physical world. And imagine you could use a robot that looks and behaves and walks like a real human being. And that robot cannot be associated with you, or it's going to be very difficult to associate that robot with you. And you would send that robot to rob a bank on your behalf. Perfect crime. I mean, if the bot is caught, how can you be associated with it? It's crazy. Similar to that, a lot of new criminal enterprise and criminal opportunities are going to arise from the fact that you can use a proxy, basically, an AI agent to work on your behalf, to commit crimes on your behalf, and much, much more.
So, how do you then work on matching the identity between, let's say, bots, customers, whoever's visiting a website?
So we've done bots and non-human detection. Again, b- originally that was the plan also to check your AI and hence check.ai. And we've been doing it for years. Now, a couple of months ago, we acquired a company called Deduce.com, which produces what I believe is the best identity graph out there. It's certainly the best I've come across startups as well as incumbent players together, marrying the identity graph together with human not human. And obviously it's way more granular than that. It's not just human not human, it's AI agents that are good versus AI agents that are bad, and so on and so forth. Marrying those two allows us to not just understand that this is Alex's AI agent, it's also legit working on behalf of Alex from your
Hmm.
device and so on and so forth. So that's how we're looking at it.
All right, guys. So we've been talking a lot about AI agents through this conversation, and almost assuming like they're going to be a fact on the ground. Um, I'm just curious what you think the state of the current capabilities of agents are, because again, like I mentioned, I've tried Operator. Is it worthwhile as part of the package for $20 a month from OpenAI? For sure. But I don't know again if it's really up to the point where I'd be using it every day. So I am kind of curious what your experience has been with these bots and how they perform today and what you expect them to do moving forward. Like, are they just going to keep improving?
Without a doubt, without a doubt, I've got no question that AI agents are going to be able to do every single thing that a human being can do. I think, and that they're going to improve massively. I don't think people are going to be able or willing to pay so much for an AI agent as they do. Certainly, everyone who can afford a personal assistant would go the AI agent route. But I think the real questions there are not if and do not revolve around whether the technology is going to be good enough, nor whether it's going to be too expensive, because it's not. There's 100% chance, and OpenAI already said it, and the same is going to go with Google Gemini and Chrome, their browser, and many others. It's going to be commoditized in terms of pricing. It's going to be either free or costing a modest price, kind of like the base, the not the pro, what is called the plus package of OpenAI. The questions around it are more the psychological questions of whether the human being would trust that AI agent to do what it needs for that to do. And across many aspects, whether the human users would entrust a third party to hold their login details of their bank account, would they trust them to really choose the right? You mentioned kayak earlier and renting a car, and
Hmm.
whether they'd really trust them. I think history shows us that the answer is a clear, clear, clear yes. My wife is a clinical psychologist, and as such, she worries on whether or not AI is going to replace her as well. And we have an argument about it, but I think both of us understand that our generation at least is not going to trust an AI agent, even if it looks and behaves and like a real human being, to be our therapist, our psychologist. But I think short of that, pretty much everything would be able would be enabled by AI agent and replaceable and trustable by human beings. And so yeah.
Fascinating stuff. All right. Before we sign off, why don't you tell everybody what type of companies that you work with at Check, and if people are interested in hearing more, how they can get in touch.
Sure. And so we currently have about 15,000 customers worldwide, of which about 1,000 are large enterprises. Across every industry, we work with the top five banks in the US and top five cybersecurity companies in the world, and SaaS companies and e-commerce companies, and we protect their entire customer journey and go to market from anything that's perilous in artificial intelligence. I think now is the time, again, if you've got a website, if you've got an app, now is the time to try and figure out how much of your user base is and is going to be made of non-human beings. And again, not just for cyber criminals or fraud prevention purposes, but also even more so for the purposes of customizing your digital experience to match the new internet world. If they want to, they want our help in doing that, they should just go to check.ai and yeah, sign up, and we'll get back to them momentarily.
Great. Well, Guy, I have to say, this has definitely opened up my mind in terms of what we can expect with AI agents. I think so much of the focus has been on capabilities and when operators are going to be released to the public. And so few people actually think about what happens to the internet once this stuff gets in the hands of, let's say, the 400 million people who are using OpenAI, or we even saw a new agent come out of China, Manus. So this stuff is moving fast. It's going to change the internet. And I'm so glad that you came by and talked to us a little bit about how companies should be thinking about that, how they should prevent some of the downside, and really make use of the best parts of this technology. So, Guy, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you so much, Alex, for having me.
All right, everybody. The website is cheq.ai, cheq.ai. And want to, again, thank Guy for joining us. And thanks to you all for watching. We'll be back on the feed with more interviews soon.